when that comes on. Thank you for those of you who showed up live today. I know since we record it that that's the most convenient method for some people to look at this, but I really love having a live audience so that I don't just feel like I'm talking to myself. And I also am glad that it's an audience where I pretty well know you guys, and so it feels more personal to me. Uh, Interesting what today's pre-law encounter is about is that mainly I have been gathering a lot of information about the current admission cycle through different meetings. And the most recent one was one that the LSAC held for pre-law advisors right at the end of October. And I got a lot of great insights from that one. And that's when I scheduled this meeting because I thought there's a lot of this that I really want to share. Uh, I was telling my husband that I was having my pre-law encounter, and he said, "Is that like Close Encounters?" And it's like, actually, ironically, it is because, the movie about close encounters of the third kind. So pre-law encounter of the first kind was like when you all first met me when you were freshmen and sophomores, and what can I do to learn more about law school? And then like encounters of the second kind are, okay, I got to get serious. When do I take the LSAT? When do I start studying? Well, this really is pre-law encounter of the third kind because this is all about contact, because it's time now to make contact with the law schools. And so this is really, the crucial one. It's like your first encounter with outer space beings. So I'm just going to kind of go through these items. It might seem kind of stream of consciousness, but I'm just going through them in the order that these things were discussed in the meeting that us pre-law advisors had with the Law School Admissions Council. The first discussion, of course, is all about how this, in the current early part of the cycle, that applications are way up. And of course, that's something that all of you have to worry about. Do I really need to rush it up? Do I need to get my applications in now? How early is early? How late is late? And what does this all mean anyway? Because the law school admissions deans have said, yeah, we've gotten more applications during this part of the cycle. We don't really know why, and we don't know if it's going to continue. It might just be that people are applying early this year, but then when the regular part comes in January and February and March, maybe applications then will be down. So it's all kind of a big unknown. But there is one clear thing, and I don't want to scare anybody, but being early is really important right now. And here is one of the reasons why. The law schools are getting a lot of early applications. Typically at this time of year, they might be getting a lot of early applications, but they wouldn't be looking at them because this is typically the time of the year where they're out traveling. They're visiting law school fairs and law forums and visiting campuses, all the things that are being done virtually now. They were out traveling and doing, very time consuming. So there'd be applications there, but they're not back at their offices looking at them. Well, guess what? Now they are. And so there's an early part of the process that we've never experienced before where the applications are there and the admissions people are actually looking at them. I have already received emails back from 2 students who have been admitted at schools. And that's crazy. I have never, usually I get my first email from someone who applied very early, like at the end of November, that they've gotten admitted. And now we've already had a couple of admissions that came in late October. So it might be a slower review at some schools because of the volume. And so one of the things that I have heard from a number of law school deans about, how quickly should I be getting my application in? Does it really need to be early? Is that, yeah, it's nice to get it in early, but don't send in a less than optimum application just to get there fast. It's better to take your time and get in a really good application than it is to rush, rush, rush and get it in fast and not have it be everything you want it to be. So I don't know. Um, this is going to be one of those things that for each of you, where you are in the process, it's going to depend about how you get your application together. But I would say, have a sense of urgency about it. Even if you've got, reasons like LSAT or whatever that you have to wait until like maybe after the January test, be sure that everything that you and I have worked on your personal statement, that we've worked on your resume, that everything else is in great shape and ready to go as soon as you are ready to put in your applications. Now, this thing about having some schools that have already admitted people, if what your goal is one of the top 14 schools, yeah, you need to get your application in before the end of the year, but they're not going to be making decisions quickly. The decisions that I've gotten were more regional schools. University of Houston accepted someone, SMU accepted someone, Baylor accepted someone. So, don't think, oh man, if I get it in early, I'll hear something early. No, probably not. So the next thing that anybody have any comment about what early means at this point in time? And of course, we'll do all the questions you want afterwards. I am going to address right now what Christella just typed in, that I hear candidates are performing better with the LSAT Flex. And that's really an interesting thing. I have had that expressed by folks who have been seeing it out there. I don't know where it is anecdotally, that it seems like the LSAT Flex scores are higher. I've heard people in the admissions panels asking the admissions people, are you looking at scores any differently because the LSAT Flex scores are higher? The interesting thing is, as I look at UTD scores from the recent LSAT Flex from September and October, I have not really seen what I consider to be higher scores. I've just seen what is kind of the normal range of scores. And I don't know if it's just that maybe most people, take it during the summer, but my experience hasn't been that the scores are really that much higher. Now, I do know this, that we heard from LSAC that this the application cycle right now, that's where applications for this time are up about 6 to 7% over last year. And they say that most of the increase is in the higher level of scores, the 170s and above. I kind of think that maybe some of this is about people are at home. You don't have much to do except fret about your future and study for the LSAT and fill out applications. And I think that there's kind of a wide range of your kind of a type A pre-law people who are getting it all done to get their applications in as kind of as part of the world of COVID. And that's a good segue to some of the next questions that were addressed were about different impacts of COVID and our different levels of lockdown. And the first one was about employment and the job market, because that's a big concern. If we have more people applying to go to law school, are there going to be the jobs available when those people graduate? And, so are we going to be in a situation where maybe the law schools will admit more people, and then will there be jobs available when those people graduate? So far, we have not seen a huge dramatic change in the job market like what happened in the last recession. And I know I've talked about it to some people before. This is different. The last recession was based on the world monetary economics and bank failure and financial crisis. And that's not the kind of situation that that we really are in right now. Instead, we've got the pandemic, and there are a lot of people that say, the various aspects of the legal market are just poised and waiting for the pandemic to go, and then the economic part of practicing law is going to come back. So that's kind of the concern, and here's why. It's because employment figures do impact class size. Since law schools are evaluated in part based on what kind of employment figures they have coming out, they can't afford to make their class size bigger if the job market is going to shrink. So I think that's the answer to, if applications are up, does that mean that the law schools are going to admit more? And my answer is, I don't think so. I think they're going to keep their classes at the same size and see what happens. The next question about that is that how careful should you be about telling stories, your own personal, here's how I dealt with the COVID lockdown, in your personal statements. And I think that it's generally, been accepted right now that that shouldn't be the whole of the topic, because everybody has experienced, something from the lockdown. And so you don't want to make it the whole of your statement. But they say it's also okay to give some kind of context within your personal statement or within your addendum to kind of help see where you're coming from, as far as the, if COVID has been a big impact on you. And so it's only a part of the whole for context, and not really a good thing to be the whole topic. For example, though, I had a student I was assisting recently who, during the course of what she was talking about within her statement, mentioned that during the pandemic that she had worked as a nurse's aide and what she had experienced there. So it wasn't even more than 2 sentences, but it did give context about what she learned from, seeing people at that point in time. And of course, I'm the personal statement whisperer, so I'm here to help you with any aspect of that. And if I see too little or too much COVID in it, I'll let you know. The next question, when talking to law schools about, how they're impacted by employment, and if legal jobs go down, their enrollment goes down. The next thing is how all of this affects universities financially. And so all of you know from our UTD experience that there has been a huge financial impact on our university from, not getting tuition, from having to transfer everything online, which is costly. And so ultimately, all universities, including law schools, are going to, especially starting in the 21-22 cycle, going to be getting into a real budget crunch. And so the concern, of course, is that's going to impact how much money law schools have to give away in financial assistance. So the good news is for this cycle, everyone is saying we don't see a reduction in how much money we have to give to students during this cycle. But I think we can anticipate that there is going to be some financial pressure on them that we might start to see in 2022 and into that part. Okay, so my next topic is about, in this virtual world, how do you make your contacts now with law schools that you're considering as you put in your applications? Because typically you would be visiting schools, you'd apply to schools, you'd be going to the forums and meeting law school admissions people in person. They'd be coming to our campus and you'd be meeting them there. And instead, we have the virtual world. And, same with places that if you get admitted to more than one place and you're trying to decide, typically, you would be going to visit these different schools, and they have admitted students day and you'd be going to attend that. So here are some of the things is that you have to make sure that you take advantage of everything virtual that the law schools have out there that they are offering up to you. The first comment that we got was about the forums. And one of the LSAC people said, I really wish when the students come to the forums that they would turn their cameras on so that we could actually see who it is we're talking to and make some kind of personal connection with them. So that's first and foremost. Any event where you have a chance to speak to someone in that way, to turn your camera on and connect with them personally, I suggest that you try to take advantage of that. And I'll tell you, we've got some law school admissions folks who are going to be more directly visiting UTD. I thought, well, we're doing all these panels, we're doing all these forums, that's going to be how our connection is. But then after that all started kind of winding down, then I had all of these folks reaching out to me to say, do you want us to do a visit just with your students? And so, of course, I said, yeah, of course we do. And so we've got some of those coming up. So I would encourage you, if these are schools that you're interested in, that when you log on, ask a question, turn your camera on, introduce yourself, and try to make that direct connection to the law school admissions people. I think another thing, take advantage of any other connections that you might have, and I can certainly assist you with that. I think one of the best things you can do when you're considering a law school and whether you want to go there or not is connect with students who are actually there. And so there are so many places where we have former Comets. And so if you can speak to someone who's at the law school, that's where you get the real honest truth about what is this school like and what do you like about it and what do you not like about it. And admissions people will do this for you as well. It doesn't even have to be someplace where we have alumni. You can just say, is it possible for me to meet one of the student ambassadors? Because all of the law schools engage the current students in the admissions process and the recruiting process. And if you get them away from, the session where the admissions people are around, I have found that they'll be very honest with you about what their law school experience is like. So I think that's an important kind of contact. Another thing that's a big dynamic right now is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Uh, it's part, and you can tell it's a phrase, a term of art now, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a part of each law school now, and it's a requirement of the LSAC to show what they are doing to bring underrepresented minorities uh, and to attain some kind of gender balance and inclusiveness within their law schools. So if you fall into one of those categories that they might consider diverse, I think that it's very important to write a diversity statement if they give you an opportunity to, and I can certainly assist with that. Uh, to ask questions about, diversity and inclusion. Talking with someone about, SMU, my alma mater, it is still a very predominantly white school. And so you have to think about that in two different ways. One is that really what I want? Would I rather be someplace that's more diverse than that? Or, the second part is, can I bring my diversity to them and make it a benefit to the school such that it makes them want to, if I may be so bold, admit you and give you money? Uh, it's a little strange for us at UTD because we are a very diverse school. And I think it's kind of shocking for my students sometimes when they leave our kind of diverse bubble and get to schools where it's not that way. And so it is a very interesting concept. But just remember that diversity, equity, inclusion, it's a thing now for every law school. So a question that I get a lot, and that was addressed at this LSAC meeting as well, is about how are students' resumes going to be viewed from our, COVID pandemic experience. So many internships have been canceled, so much unavailable. What is available online. And so the question, keeps coming up. Are the law schools, really going to see my resume and be concerned that I don't have any sort of internship experience? So the first thing is, of course, they know, they've lived through this as well. And in fact, the law schools have experienced it in a dramatic way as well, because a big part of the law school experience is having internships during the summers. And they all got canceled this summer for law students as well. In fact, that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for you undergrads to find an internship, is because the law students are just gobbling up everything that there is. But the thing is, you have to be a little more creative with your opportunities. And one thing to do is you can get law-related experience by doing webinars on Zoom, by getting into, other people's kind of opportunities to learn about the profession. There are a lot of professional organizations now, bar associations, law schools, that I keep getting these emails of, we're having this webinar now where we have one of our professors who's talking about this particular topic. So find these experiences out there where you can listen to these really brilliant people doing webinars on legal topics, and then make a contact with them. Reach out to panel members that you've seen on panels and tell them, I am really interested in what you were talking about. Is there an opportunity, where I can hear more or I can do more? And then take advantage of those kind of online opportunities. We all just have to be more creative about about what's out there, and then, find a way on your law school resume to list that you've taken advantage of these opportunities. And I got to go to one thing. I've got a bunch of things I'm going to comment on about here, but Christella just said, as a student, you can get a free membership with the American Bar Association, and they have a ton of opportunities through the ABA for webinars with top lawyers in the country, people you can reach out to. And you know what else you can reach out to them about? You might see a panel with an expert who went to a particular law school. You can reach out to them and say, I'm considering that law school. Is there something that you can tell me about it, and what was your experience there like? So, just really don't be afraid to reach out and find those people that have got the information that you want. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath, drink some tea. Because the next thing I'm going to talk about is the LSAT. So I wanted to back up here. And it says, Christella says, my cast says UTD has a college mean of 153. Is that accurate? That's not the last figure that I saw. And I get statistics from them. I think our median, and I guess we're talking about if we've got mean or median. Our mean has been more around 155, 156. But let me tell you what that entails as I see it on the report. I see our folks who score in the 170s. But I also see alumni who I've never talked to or met, who may have been out of school for some time, and it looks like they just take the LSAT cold, and they might score a 135 or a 140. And so we get such a wide variety of scores because of that, since they count everybody who ever went to UTD who takes the LSAT gets counted in our number as far as what our median is. And so it still, though, is 4 to 5 points above the average, because you think other schools, the same thing is happening to them. And so I think our overall mean is still looked at as, is higher than some. Let's see. And to this comment, I'm noticing that private schools seem to be more diverse than public schools. I don't really think so. Like I say, SMU private school, not diverse at all. And then, public schools like UT, very diverse. So it has more to do, I think, with size, location, exclusivity. I mean, you can look at some of the top 14 schools, and some are gonna be very diverse and some are not. And it really kind of depends more on where they are, and where they're ranked, and what kind of, because a school like University of Minnesota is a top-ranked law school, but it's not diverse at all. They give very big diversity scholarships because they've got to do something to attract people of color to there. And so I've had students before. I had a woman of color who was given a really big diversity scholarship at University of Minnesota. And I said, this is really wonderful, but you need to go visit there and see if, you're going to be comfortable there, because chances are you're going to be the only woman of color in your class. And she reported back to me, no, there were 2 of us. So it's all kind of like what you're looking for in a particular class. Okay. LSAT. It's been a really weird LSAT year. And let me say this about diversity too, is that you should be looking at the ABA 509 report for every law school that you're interested in going to and comparing, the 509 report, all of them look the same format, same statistics. It's what every law school is required to report to the ABA. And it has the kind of race, gender, ethnicity breakdowns on it. So you can see what the diversity is of every school that you might be interested in going to. And so you can, kind of get a feel for, am I going to feel comfortable there? Or, is it going to be that situation where I have to represent my entire race in every class? Okay, LSAT. Weird year for LSAT, isn't it? Because we have been doing the LSAT Flex now since spring. Doesn't seem to be any idea that it's going to go away. There is also the aspect of taking the test at home and all of the concerns that brings about connectivity. There's this rumor, I guess, hopefully LSAC is going to give us some real statistics at some point in time comparing scores on the Flex to the previous LSAT, but there is this rumor that the scores are higher with the Flex. So we had this kind of long string of emails on our pre-law listserv about how much time should we tell students that they need to study for the LSAT. And so it kind of conforms to what I tell students. It generally seems to be that their pre-law advisors are telling students you need 3 months. They're saying 12 to 15 hours a week. And, also a total of 200 hours that you spend working on LSAT prep, which someone said is typical what a college class takes. So if you're taking a class for the semester, you are probably going to put as many hours into studying for the LSAT as you would a one semester class. So here's what I tell you. Some of you did way more than that. Some of you did less than that. Some of you are still doing that. So I don't know that it's particularly meaningful, to this group. But that's what we're kind of hearing about is as far as the LSAT goes. I think median scores are going to stay about the same. So what you see from a school, like we take your A&M, median LSAT, 158. I think that's going to be true of what we see of what's going to be taking. If you have a 158 and something at the median of their GPA, I think that's who's going to get admitted this year. So I think those median scores as they are published right now are going to be kind of spot on as what the median. But I'm going to tell you they're going to take people less than that, and they're going to take people more than that. And a lot of it is about combinations too, of whether you have higher LSAT score, lower GPA, or the opposite, that those things are going to equalize at some point. So, that's kind of like it's a good indication of where you might be accepted. So as far as what else to look for in a law school, there are two more items that kind of spoke to me. One was some of our former students talking about how you get through your first year. And they were talking about the academic success resources that particular law schools have. And so when it comes to having, like Q&As and meetings with law schools that you're considering, going to forums, and you want, to ask something deeper than the statistics you already know, ask them about what kind of academic success resources they have for first year students. And because the kind of things you're going to need help with, somebody to read your first case brief so that you'll know that you've got it right. Someone who can check the form of your memorandum to make sure it's right. The same kind of things that you would get from the Academic Success Center at UTD, except all the more important because it is at that higher level. In your first year, you're going to do maybe the final exam at the end, maybe a midterm if you're lucky, one big memorandum at the end that's going to be your whole grade. And so you're not going to know, am I doing this right or not? And so knowing what resources are available to you is what's going to make your law school experience. And so we've had so many students say, I lived at the academic resource place. I had, people, upper level students who helped me there. So the other thing is about what kind of career services they have. And this is interesting, as undergrads, it's like, the Academic Success Center might not be anything that you've probably more likely for our pre-law students that you were one of the people working at the Academic Success Center rather than someone seeking help. And the same thing with career services. More likely you're talking to me about your career rather than talking about to the people at career services. But once you get to law school, those are integral parts of the whole university. And so you want to ask about their career services and, the availability of it. What expectations are there surrounding your internships for your first summer, for your second summer? What kind of on-campus interviews, who comes in and interviews on campus to select for internships? Will they help me find that job? Because the typical thing in law schools, especially in your second summer, that second summer internship, if it goes well, your hope is that they're going to offer you a job for when you get out. And so getting the assistance of career services to know who's interviewing on campus and what kind of jobs are going to be available and how much help you're going to have with that is really important. Okay, so before we see if there are any questions, I wanted to make sure and let you know about what we have coming up next week and the week after, because it's really kind of our last 2 weeks before everybody gets into Thanksgiving and finals and doing everything with me one-on-one to get your applications going. And that is the people that we have visiting. The Texas recruiter for OU, for Oklahoma Law, is going to be here on the 11th at 1:30. I believe that's the Wednesday. And you can go to the website and get the link for that. OU is an interesting law school because I consider it really to be a North Texas law school as much as it is an Oklahoma law school. 25% of the people who graduate from OU take the Texas bar. And they have a Texas recruiter for that very reason. And so the main thing that OU gives away in terms of financial assistance for Texans, the first thing they'll offer you is in-state tuition, right off the bat. So I think OU is a good regional choice as a law school, and we have students who are there who are very happy there. The next one will be Thursday evening at 6 is when Texas A&M admissions is going to be, their representative is going to be talking with us. A&M, of course, is that other local choice, and that's appealing for people. Even if you live, and I used to commute to, when I taught at Texas Wesleyan, I commuted to Fort Worth from Lakewood every day, and it really was not bad at all. It's maybe because they are on, in downtown Fort Worth on the easternmost side, and so you can be there in 50 minutes to an hour. And honestly, I know people who commute from Plano to downtown who spend an hour doing that. So for that of, staying in the area. And of course, A&M is also becoming well known for intellectual property, patent law, trademarks, copyrights. Okay, the same day, UT is having its law day, and that's something that is not through us, that is completely through the University of Texas Law. And so if UT is your interest and your choice, make sure you have to register for that. They typically have their law day in person, of course, and I have been at it before, but it is really so fantastic to learn everything about, what UT is like as a school. But it's interesting, and everything I had gotten was, sorry, we can't come visit you, but tell all of your students to come to our law day. I got an email today, just before we started, from the Dean of Admissions at UT Law. Hey, Barbara, how are y'all doing? Just wanted to make sure you knew about Law Day. And oh, would you like us to do something with your students? Personally, we love having students from UTD. And so I'm thrilled, and I will go back to him and say, hell yes, we would love to have you come and talk to our students. So I'm very excited. You're the first to know that I think we're going to get our own visit with someone from UT. So then the other one, we have Heather Stovall, who's the associate dean at SMU, and she is the one who always visits us every year. Great friend of UTD, and she will be meeting with us on Monday the 16th. And she is an alum. She is a Comet, and that's why she always loves to visit us. And so that's going to be 4:30 on Monday the 16th. And so I'll let everybody know when Dean Lee, or he might send someone else, but all of the folks from UT are great. And they love us Comets. And so I want to make sure that, and there is, there's a lot about this kind of personal contact when you're applying to law schools. And it's something that I'm really proud of for what I've done in the last 2.5 years, is try to make sure that we are closely connected with the law schools that are our, where they're our biggest feeders, to make sure that, we still have a great relationship. Okay. Any questions, comments? The comment, do the Khan Academy diagnostic test, and I think, so let me ask a question, and you all can raise your hands. Has everybody who's on with us today taken the LSAT? Raise your hand if the answer is yes. And I'm not getting anything, and I know Timothy has taken it. I don't know. Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about the LSAT, because I'm kind of assuming that everybody here has taken it. If anybody is considering taking the January test, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And, because I think that there's some merit to taking the January test and trying to get a better score if you feel like you need it, but it's a plus minus. And so we need to do your particular plus minus. Any other questions? Current admission cycle? Let me ask you, and I know Christella will answer me. Am I just making you nervous, or am I making you feel better about where you are with your applications? So better, nervous, feeling the same?
Better. I was a little worried about the increase in LSAT scores, but I'm glad the medians are going to hopefully stay a little stable.
Yeah, that is good news, isn't it? If we're getting something where, they're astronomically better scores. But like I said, I just haven't seen it. And we usually get a pretty wide variety from our students. And I just haven't seen it. Yeah, and Christelle says, I'm more confident when I speak to admissions folks. And I got to agree with that 100%. And that's why I say keep making those contacts with them, because they're nervous too. They don't know what all of this means. They don't know what the LSAT Flex means for them, and they don't know what the increase in applications means, and they don't know what COVID's going to bring. And so when they get a real live smart student who's interested in their school, they're going to have a great encounter with you. It's like, oh, a student, let me talk to a student. It's the thing that kind of, for both sides, takes, if you can make real human contact, it takes all of the edge off of this about what are my numbers and what are they looking for. Real human contact just cannot be beat. And I think we're all getting better and better about doing it online, aren't we? I may stay here, hibernating in my house for the rest of eternity, because I seem to be, Timothy can testify to this. Our moot court team sure seems to be doing great virtually. So, yeah. Okay. I think that's it. If there are not any more questions, then thank you all for coming today. Thank you for being my audience while I recorded this message. It always makes it so much easier. And all of you know where to find me and Ashley if you need to make an appointment. I'll tell you this, I'm not going anywhere for Thanksgiving. There's nowhere to go. And so I will pretty well be engaged even after the semester is over. And so as you are working on your applications, personal statements, anything, just reach out to me, make an appointment, reach out to Ashley. She's got my calendar. And we'll make sure that everything is all together. There are people out there who go it alone. And I just can't imagine that when you've got someone like me who can help you. Why on earth would you go it alone? Because I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you're sending in an excellent application. And if any of you are familiar with the Killers, the great band out of Las Vegas, I don't shine if you don't shine. So, I have that motivation to make sure that you all get to the law school that fits you best. All righty. Well, I hope that you'll attend some of our sessions next week, and call on me if you need me. And everybody, have a good weekend and take care.